Now, look, as we just mentioned, thousands have taken part in Invasion Day protests across the country, but we noticed in particular the sheer amount of Palestine flags among the Aboriginal flags. What exactly is their cause? Because to me it seems it's not about changing the date. That's what they claim that they're there for, but they're all hijacking this one event. Has it gone beyond that now? What do they have against the West?
Well, I think that a lot of these people just loathe Australia and always want to delegitimise Australia and our institutions. I mean, I don't know what the utopia is that they're trying to drive towards, but I mean, it strikes me as very strange that people who live in our country, amongst our in our neighbourhood, in our communities, work in jobs here, have such a low regard for our country that they seemingly want to denigrate every element of it. I mean, if it's that bad, as you said in your introduction, emigrate, leave. I just find it, I find it sad that people use an occasion like this when we should be proud of who we are as a nation, when we should celebrate our achievements. I was at a citizenship ceremony earlier today, as a lot of MPs and senators were around the country, and to see how proud and happy new Australians are to get that certificate of citizenship, I think tells you everything we need to know about our country, how good it is that so many people want to live here, move here, make a life here, make a contribution here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we had 15,000 people become Australian citizens today in 280 citizenship ceremonies. So for such a racist, terrible country built on stolen land, there's a lot of people who think it's the best place in the world to live, and they've voted with their feet. I want to move to news in the Middle East. Dave, you would be very aware that 4 more hostages have been released for female Israeli soldiers. They were released, but not before Hamas paraded these 4 women on stage. Have a look. So, Dave, you've got this weird situation where you've got these 4 women who have been held hostage 477 days. They're finally being released to their families, but you get them on stage beside hooded gunmen with a crowd cheering. Tell me, what do you make of that?
Look, I was very troubled to see that footage. Obviously, I'm immensely relieved to see some more of the hostages returned. 3 were released last Sunday. We've had 4 this time. But Hamas is clearly using this to demonstrate to Israel, but also to the world, that they are still in control, that they can still get people in uniform with weapons, organise an event, pull people along. They still are showing, they're using this occasion to demonstrate that they are still the primary political and governing force in Gaza. And that is very concerning, because I think I certainly take the view that a Gaza that is left with Hamas in control is only going to lead to further conflict, further incidents like October 7th, further loss of Palestinian civilian life because of the wars that are inevitably fought. But Hamas is clearly using this to send a message to Israel saying, hey, we're still here, you haven't finished us off yet.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the sad part about all this. Dave Sharma, okay, it's fantastic the hostages are being released, but will this ever end the war? I mean, that is the next question. Now, I want to ask you about Peter Dutton's New Look front bench. He has reshuffled ahead of the federal election. Some key notable changes include opposition communications spokesman David Coleman has been elevated to the foreign affairs portfolio, but significantly, Indigenous Australian spokeswoman Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price will take on government efficiency, which is similar to Doge in America. Dave Sharma, Donald Trump is very serious about government spending, so I think that this is a fantastic appointment, getting Senator Price to do similar. How much do we need a role like this here?
Well, look, we need it massively. I mean, the size of government has grown here from basically 24.9% of GDP, a quarter of the economy, to about 27.8% of GDP. 3% more. Government has been getting progressively bigger under this Labor government, which means the government is taxing more, it's crowding out private sector activity, it's discouraging investment because it's hoovering up all the capital and employment and whatnot. So we need to get government smaller and more efficient. And you'd think with all the huge productivity advances with, artificial intelligence and quantum computing and all these other great technological boons coming online, we should be able to deliver government services more efficiently. So I'm certain that Jacinta Price will be highlighting some of the opportunities there. James Stephens, who's already as a parliamentary secretary or shadow, shone a spotlight on government waste will be an important part of that effort as well. But I think there's a huge opportunity here to make government more efficient and to make sure when we're spending on essential services, they're actually reaching the end user, not being used to employ more public servants in Canberra.
All right, Senator, just before we let you go, I've got a very tricky question for you that politicians right around our country have been struggling with all week. I want to see how you go. The official policy of the US government is now that there are only two genders, male and female. So I want to ask you, as a high-profile Liberal Party senator, 3 questions. How many genders are there? What are they? And will that be reflected in government policy should you win the election?
Well, in my view, there are 2 genders, male and female. And in my view, the policy on this is settled. I mean, we've got guidelines on this in the Australian government go back to 2013 when the Sex Discrimination Act was amended. My view is if it's not broke, don't try and fix it. I think, I'm watching what they're doing in the US with interest, but I don't have any proposals to change how we go about this in Australia.
So the coalition won't embrace the pro-women's rights movement and push back against trans ideology?
I think our priorities are addressing, people's cost of living, power bills, grocery prices, electricity prices. I mean, fundamentally, we think the most important duty of our government is to keep people safe, give them an opportunity to get ahead, and that's what we'll be focused on. Just
before I let you go, I've got to push back slightly because there'd be a lot of ladies watching saying, well, our priority is the safety of our daughters, fairness in girls' sport. Is that not a priority for at least half the population?
Oh, I think those are important issues. I think, making sure that, women are safe, whether they're playing sport or they're in correctional facilities or anywhere else, is an important consideration. And I think we always need to make sure we keep that first and foremost, that people's freedom to identify how they want to in terms of the gender does not impinge upon the rights and safety of others. Now, that's always going to be a live issue, but I don't think we need to be headlining a policy area on this when I think Australia's under so many other pressures.
Oh, well, I mean, it's a global issue at the moment, Dave Sharma. We'll see what happens in the lead up. Appreciate you joining us as always. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on.